Rev up your engines!
Well, here's some interesting information for everybody from one of my fans, Bill Kopp. He says, Scotty, I got a 2016 Lincoln MKZ. I have 19-inch wheels, and I cracked the wheel. I went to the Ford dealer, and they said the wheel's $512. So my wife called Ford and asked if we could get a discount, and they said, yeah, $220 for the wheel. They notified the dealer. We went to the dealer, and we got the wheel for $220. The dealer didn't seem too happy about it. That's okay, though. I just wanted you to let people know. If you complain loud enough, you might save some money. See, the manufacturers, they want the people who buy their cars to be happy with the cars, right? So they buy another one. The dealers, on the other hand, they just want to make money. They don't really care. Somebody has a problem, even with the Japanese cars. And the dealers are like, we don't care. Too bad you bought it. It's so sad, right? Well, then if you complain to the Japanese company itself, like Toyota or Honda, a lot of times they will either give you money back or they'll give you something for free because they don't want a bad image for their company because their dealers are not treating the people correctly. Do as Bill did. His wife complained to Ford. The price suddenly went down for the wheel on his Ford from $512 to $220. A lesson to be learned. Well, some people say they're building them better than they used to. Well, I kind of disagree. Turns out that the 2021 Nissan Rogue crash test got a rare 2-star passenger score because the airbags on that side didn't work all that well. The National Highway Traffic Safety Association tested it out. Turns out the front passenger safety systems aren't working correctly on those. They built 50,000 of them so far. But at least luckily enough, it's for most of the rest of the world because most of the Rogues that are sold in the United States are made in Smyrna, Tennessee, and it doesn't affect the ones made there. It was the ones they were making in Japan. So I guess Nissan, the company I'm not particularly enamored with in the first place, they may not build better cars in Japan. Maybe they're building them better in Tennessee. Times change. Maybe the Tennessee boys are doing a better job building them than they are in Japan now. Well, Nissan's always been a company in problems. They've been on the verge of bankruptcy for decades, so nothing would surprise me with what they do. Gay Sito says, my 03 Mazda Tribute was overheating due to a head gasket failure. During the engine removal, the mechanic spilled the transmission oil. We flushed, didn't put new fluid in with OEM. Now the transmission is slipping. Never flush a car that's old. It's 18 years old. And it is a old Mazda that had weak transmissions anyway. Your mechanic was an idiot to flush it out. Should have never flushed it out in the first place. What he should have done is, if you remove the engine, he should have just basically drained the transmission first. Save the fluid in a clean container. Then when the work was done, pour it back in. That's what a lot of guys do that are smart about old automatic transmissions. If you got to work on the transmission, you save the old fluid, work on the transmission, then pour the old fluid back in because it's used to that old fluid. I've been doing that for years. It's kind of too late now, the horse has left the arena and you can close the gate all you want, but the horse is long gone. If you want to try, get some Lucas transmission, anti-slip, put it in, pray it helps, but odds are it's shot now, and you got a car with a slipping transmission, you probably spend a bunch of money on a head gasket, and doing a tranny job on that Tribute's going to cost you anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 to have it done correctly. So be kind of mad at the guy that flushed it out. You should never flush those old ones out. Kaizen says electric vehicles in the horizon. No one knows how long internal combustion engines will be around or how soon EVs will take over, but it's inevitable. Are wrenching skills transferable from ICE vehicles to EVs? What are parts that are common? Well, here's the thing. It's probably going to take a really long time to transfer over, and nobody even knows how it's going to be transferred over. Let's say that we're going to transform to electric cars, but they're hydrogen fuel cell cars that run on hydrogen. The internal combustion engines we have today will run perfectly fine on hydrogen. You can modify them very simply to run on hydrogen. So if we had it all hydrogen fuel, you could keep driving our old cars till they fall apart and switch to electrically powered hydrogen fuel cell cars. To me, that makes the most sense of it all. Because otherwise, if some of the cars are electric and some of them are gasoline, you're going to still have to have a gasoline infrastructure, and then you're going to have to boost up the electric infrastructure, which, if you saw the people freezing to death in Houston and Dallas, they couldn't even have enough electricity to heat up their houses. Yeah, let's add a few million cars to that mix and see what happens. Nobody puts money into infrastructure unless they have to. So, unless there's a big boom towards putting it into clean electricity, which everybody is all this agog about. Oh, nuclear power is dangerous. Actually, that's the cleanest thing. It doesn't do any pollution if it's run correctly, and they have new types of plants that they use that aren't as radioactive as the old ones, that work quite well and don't have the problem of all this leftover radioactive waste because they work at a different level. But those cost a lot of money to build. Again, you got to have an infrastructure. If it doesn't exist, nothing's going to change. It's going to take 100,000 elephants in the room room to push that infrastructure, I can tell you that. But nobody wants to put money into infrastructure. They all want to make a profit. They don't want to build the infrastructure. That's one of the reasons that a city like Houston got blacked out. They got wires running on the telephone poles. Some of them were from the 1940s still up there. They don't put any money into infrastructure, and if you got to make it for all these cars, who's going to pay for that? Mike and Plata said, we got an '08 Lexus GS350 with 150,000 miles. I know it takes 530, but the Lexus dealership here in New York's telling me to use 020 because of its age. And now, do you think that's good? What should I do? Don't listen to them. That car was made for 530, you use 530. The reason they want you to use 0W20 because that's the only oil that they got. And they don't have to buy special oil for you. So they'll throw it in. You got no warranty left on that thing. If it wears the engine out, they'll be happy and they'll sell you another car. That car was made for 530. That's what it was made for. That's what you can use it for. Don't listen to them. They're just saying it because that's what they got in stock and they don't have to buy special oil for you. It's a bunch of nonsense. The engineers designed it for one oil. You shouldn't use another oil in it. That's just absurd. Robert C4 said, I'm interested in a remote oil filter kit for my 212 Camry. Are there any recommendations on high quality kits? I found a few, but not promising. I wouldn't bother. It's not that hard to get to the filter on that Camry. I would just, leave the one that's on it. It was designed correctly because you have to trust that they're selling you good hoses. What if it's some cheap Chinese hose? It breaks while you're going down a road. Oil leaks out, your engine blows up. It's not that hard to get to that oil filter there. I would not relocate it. You're just adding possible future problems to the vehicle. Some of the old cars had them really stinky where they're hidden way up somewhere. Then relocate them, okay, you can get to them. But it's not that hard to access it. You just yak the car up and from the bottom, you twirl it off. I would personally not even do that. You're taking a chance that if a clamp comes loose or a rubber hose is cheaply made and it blows, you're going down the highway, goes the oil, and boom goes the engine. I wouldn't even do it myself. It's not that hard to change that filter anyway. Android 15 says, tell me how this ad makes any sorts of sense parts-wise. It's a Honda CR-V, one accident, it's 16 years old with 394,000 miles, and the dealer is asking $10,000 for it. The dealers are always insane with their prices on stuff anyways, but that's just the way that it goes. Everybody wants those SUVs, and I mean 393,000 miles for 10 grand. That's just absurd. Why would anybody pay that for a Honda CR-V with that kind of mileage? But that's how the dealers are. They just put it out there and they hope some fool comes and buys the thing. I remember when my son wanted a Celica because I had one and he wanted to get one. I'm looking around. I look at a dealer and they had a Celica that had 100,000 miles more than the one that I'd paid $300 for, and they wanted like $7,500 for it. I said, what are you people out of your minds? But that's just how it is at dealerships. They got something that's shiny, it looks nice. They hope the human crows see the shiny object and want to pull it in and say, it's only $199 a month for the next 10 years. That's how it works at dealerships. Just the way it is. That's why you don't buy cars there if you have any brains. Kaizen says, in real life conversations, how do you refer to driving a manual transmission? Manual transmission, standard transmission, stick shift, clutch. When I was a kid, it was always, people just called it a standard transmission. Now, the reason it's called the standard transmission back in the day is because that was the standard one that people drove. The cars all came with standard transmission. You paid extra to get one that had an automatic transmission. But you can't really call them standard transmissions because today the standard in the United States, at least, is automatic transmission. Something like 96% of Americans drive automatic transmissions. You would have to call it manual transmission or a stick shift because it's no longer the standard. The standard is they all come with automatic transmissions. Because people have gotten lazy as time goes on, and they don't want to shift gears anymore. I don't blame the taxi drivers because they're stuck in traffic, or people in Houston on the highway going to work and they're going 4 miles an hour on the highway, shift down. It is kind of a pain in the butt. But if you're a serious driver, it's much more fun driving a standard transmission. You got more control. You rev up and down. It's just more fun to drive. That's why they're still selling Mustangs with stick shifts on the floor and not just that paddle shifty crap. Corolla 9 Generation says, I got an 03 Corolla, 135,000 miles. At idle, my MAF reads between 1.4 and 1.5 grams per second. Short-term fuel is 3 to 7%, and long-term is 8.6. I've cleaned the MAF sensor twice. What do you think it could be? Well, it could be the MAF sensor's just worn out. They might not read accurately. It's old enough, and you can get one cheap enough at a place like AutoZone. You might just try a MAF sensor. The other thing would be, watch my video, how to clean fuel injectors without removal. And it'll show you mechanics like myself have a machine that pressure cleans them. It could easily be the injectors are dirty. Now, on a Toyota, they generally last a lot more than 135,000 miles, but they will get dirt. And the way fuel injectors work is they spray a triangular cone out. So it's like an ice cream cone upside down. And it's supposed to spray a perfect cone. When they're dirty and clogged up, it sprays sideways, no cone shape. Then they don't run right. They don't spray enough fuel. They'll run lean and they'll have to add fuel like that. Your car's adding fuel. So it could be that simple. And also, what the heck, change your fuel filter. The fuel pumps on those generally last forever too, but the fuel filters can get clogged up. Change the fuel filter too. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.